Hello and welcome back to another Let's Backflip show, happy hour. Is that the title? I don't think that's the title. You know what's going on though. It's a happy hour. We're hanging out with fun people today, having a drink, alcohol, or just a favorite drink that we have in-house. And today, I've got Katie Kennedy with me. Thank you for coming, Katie. And thanks for sitting here awkwardly and not talking while we got things going.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. This is admittedly my first podcast.
Is it really?
So, I don't know if the feeling's nervous or just, I don't know what to feel. I'd probably be more nervous for a subsequent one, or maybe I'll never have another one. I don't know. We'll see how this goes.
If all goes according to plan, this will be your last one. And no one will ever invite you in.
Exactly.
We'll get all the details.
So I'm going to tank this in about 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. I ran into you at the chamber event.
Yes.
That was cool.
Yes. I paid attention in case you were going to quiz me on any of it. So that's, no, but I always enjoy those. I think it's fun that it's 10 years and running on this icebreaker. But
how long have you guys been a part of the chamber?
Well, I mean, I was working alongside Zach when he came up with this idea and helped with, his first speech for this event. So it really does hold a special place for me. And, I just, Zach is truly such a gifted human and understands Madison so implicitly. And
he just makes shit happen.
I mean,
whoa.
He does. And it's things that you would, it's just, otherworldly sometimes, what he's able to come up with and the, all the connections he makes and brings back around, and always a really incredible moment to be part of that and hear, just kind of watch how all that comes together. So
I feel like I can't pitch the chamber enough. We're just new members.
Okay.
Because I wanted to get connected, and I was like, this group looks like they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then as I got more and more into it and met people and went to Chamber 101 and whatever, I was like, yo, this is legit.
Yeah.
I don't want to say any other organizations that we've been a part of in town for maybe a year or two where it's it's this awkward social situation and you hand a card and you dread going to them.
Yeah.
This is the opposite.
Yeah.
Which I think is amazing.
Yeah. And it's fun. It's like this huge event, but it feels as small as Madison is, right? That you and I walk up to the registration table at the same time, oh, hey.
Yeah.
So it feels like as you're working through the crowd, so many of the people, and it's I was going to try and find you at this event. There's 1,000 people here. How was I going to do that? And it happens anyway. So that's quintessential Madison.
Right. And that as a marketer, thinking about connecting and whatnot, I feel like it's just such a great example of what relational marketing and just connecting is. Cause it's that was kind of my goal. Hey, I want to just say hi to people.
Yep.
How many people am I going to be able to, recognize and say hi to? And I think the count was only maybe 6 or 7. I was actually impressed. I was I don't know most people that I'm seeing, still connected with a lot, but
yeah. You feel like you've met everybody, but it is kind of nice to know there's another frontier out there that, more people to meet, but the oldies but goodies, that you've seen over the years and look forward to seeing. And 6 or 7 is really powerful. He was talking about the social determinants of health and talking about, just having, what was it, 2 interactions a week was something he was saying.
One social interaction was half. Okay, there's 2 stats. The one was halving Alzheimer's risk and the other one was 400% something else.
Yeah.
Totally
the risk of dementia, I think. Yeah. So, but it was just that power of just connecting with people. So even if you say 6 or 7, you're well, that's actually a lot of people to be able to have that moment and then maybe be able to say, let's grab a coffee, let's grab that drink, right? And go on from there. So yeah, I think they do a nice job of leaving space to do that. The speakers are always engaging and you walk away from that just ruminating on everything that was said, right? And all the stats that were thrown at you, but it's just as much about connecting with other people.
And Justin there at the end, I think Mr. Fascinate is his moniker. He said a couple really pithy phrases that stuck in my mind. One was, AI is not going to take your job. It's the people who are using AI that are going to take your job. And I love that because I talk to people in the creative industry, in programming, and just people all across the board. And most people are pretty positive and pretty
Mhm.
open and experimenting
Yeah.
with AI. But then there's some people who are just terrified and they're like, I'm not using it at all. And like, I'm concerned that it's coming after my job. And, you know, I'm sure everyone felt the same way with various industrial revolutions,
Sure.
like the you know,
Yep.
building of factories. And certainly
Yep.
there's some job loss, but it's, you know, it's a shifting of that workforce and being the person who drives the AI or the prompt engineer.
Yep.
That was another one
Yes.
that I hadn't heard.
Yes, but it makes perfect sense.
Right.
You know? Yeah, I mean, they just had something on the morning news. That's my, you know, my Zen moment in the morning. Even if the kids now, it used to be before the kids were up, but now that they're, you know, they're able to kind of get themselves ready, that I just sit with my cup of coffee and I watch the morning news, and I don't move until the last drop of coffee is done. So anyway, I get my fill, but they were talking about upskilling workers, that same thing, you know, saying, well, to be displaced by a robot, well, we're just going to teach you new things and new value propositions in your role. And so it's kind of the same thing as what you're talking about.
Right. And I think, you know, I think it's just maybe a philosophy or a perspective, like something hard is coming. I'm scared of it versus I'm going to embrace it.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Are you guys, or you personally, do you do anything with AI? You, company aside,
gosh,
like, and
that's
company
really,
politics aside.
I mean, no. And geez, you know, that's check with me tomorrow now that I've been outed. I mean, I certainly am paying attention to it and watching and reading articles on it and trying to consume and understand it. But for me, I'm probably just a little old school at times and might be a late adopter until I've really made sure I know how I want to incorporate it. But
yeah, I mean, it's a little scary because like there's the legality behind it.
Yeah,
is very gray.
Yeah.
You know, there's some big advertisers who are using it, but you know, I don't know if you ever got hit with like a copyright image. We had one, like a little thing somewhere on our website. Basically, we got scanned by this group who does this, and they're like, "This is an AP photo. Do you have the license?" And we're like, shit.
Yeah.
Trying to go through the paper trail, and like, don't think we have it. And they're like, well, you owe us. I don't remember what it was, $3,400.
Oh my gosh.
And you know.
Yeah, that's right. I think, you know, sometimes, you know, I don't know. That's me though. I like to be a little bit more buttoned down and airtight on stuff. But there's you have to also surround yourself with people who are, you know, willing to jump in and try some of it. And but I don't know how you guys are using it, but you know, or do you use it personally?
Yeah, I mean, personally a lot. The funny thing is, like, what do we use that isn't using it is kind of the question right now, right? Like there's all language learning models and data models that are learning our behavior. Like our phones will suggest, hey, you usually go to work now. Here's how long it'll take to get there, right? That's a little bit of AI that we never said yes to, just you know, as a feature. But in terms of intentional AI, I use it a lot as kind of a discovery tool or a brainstorming tool. And that's been really fun. It's almost like being able to talk to a lot of different people about a given topic or something and get some feedback. And then I always like, give me references, you know, give me links, so then I can go actually go look and see where it's getting some of that stuff if it smells like bullshit. And then creatively, we're actually pitching some AI avatar, AI VO stuff. Because the client was hopeful to create something and to be able to utilize it for up to 2 years without having to come back and have production and, you know, to save some costs, certainly some licensing up front. So we're exploring the AI avatars, the AI voiceovers, and trying to figure out licensing in that. So
we've looked into that a little bit ourselves. You know, it'll sort itself out. We'll just keep learning more, and you know, I know a lot of people use it to help them, you know, write things, and I guess maybe, you know, probably a little bit more my journalism background makes me go like, I'm going to do it myself.
Have you seen some of those stats? Like, I can't remember if it was like 2030, like 80%, you know, it might even be sooner, like 2025, like 80% of content online will be created by AI.
Well,
and it's already, you know, we're already there. Like, that's a lot of how to do SEO. Is like, go over here, say, give me 10 blog prompts, and then write, a couple outlines for that. And okay, flesh out these sections. And, it's weird. You can feel it when you read it, obviously.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I'm probably in this, people know me will tell you, I have these little quirks where there's a while where I was like, I will not use an emoji when I text. My kids give me a hard time about that. Like, remember when mom wouldn't use one, and now it's like, now I use them freely, and people give me a hard time every time. They're like, wow, I think that was 5 emojis in that message. You know? So,
like people don't even use this many, and now she uses that many.
So maybe, just that's why I said, check back with me. I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to, yeah. When it's, I feel like it's forced into everything too. Like every other day, you're like, now your toaster has AI, and here's why. And I don't know. The cynic in me is like, is this China? Is like, do we need to be worried about stuff like that? And probably, but
sometimes I just want to get back to the 80s.
Yeah.
Just being a little unhooked and just a little bit like just a good old toaster.
Yeah.
It did what it's supposed to do.
Do you ever unplug? Do you ever?
Oh, that's a great question. I am trying to learn how to do that. I don't know how successful that morning routine is sort of, in a way, like my way of doing that. It's like it's not unplugging because I'm watching TV, but it's not quiet. I'm not meditating per se, but it's
you're not.
I'm not answering questions.
In the face.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not doom scrolling while I'm doing that or whatever. It's literally just holding and feeling the warmth of the mug and just setting myself up for the day. It's just that moment. And I've just felt like I've needed it. I think it's harder and harder to do. And especially when you get that weekly report, you go like, gosh, I was barely on my phone this week. And then you get that and you're like, oh, what did they say today? That Gen Z is at least online 8 hours. Was it 8 hours a day?
Right. But then the middle schoolers were saying it's like much
it's
more.
Way more than that. Right. Yeah. That's, that's a lot of time.
I don't know if there's a psychologist or, Huberman, like a neurobiologist or who I was listening to. It sounded like they knew what they were talking about. But the difference between like, vegging out in front of the TV and kind of like how we grew up, where it's like, the TV's on, it's noise, but there's a community aspect to it or a social aspect to it, where like anyone who walks in is now participating in it with you. Whereas this is like, okay, now I'm not with you. I'm over here, I'm separate. And even when people are sitting together watching something, we're at a restaurant, like our kids don't have phones yet, but when they do, I want to be like, hey, if you need to check something, you can step away for a second. Like, that's fine. Like when we're here at the dinner table or whatever.
I think that's, really smart. And, instead of kind of getting annoyed later, about it. I do that too. I just have those funny moments in the car where I, just took the kids to Arizona and I said, so let me just understand this. I've spent all this money to bring you to another state to see, the desert and all of this new community, and you're in your phones, and then they kind of go like, oh, so instead of just being direct about saying, can you please put away your phones? I do this whole like, let me get this straight, so
which maybe at times is a little softer and a little more well received.
Cuts through the, mom's telling me to do something else right now, but I mean, it's definitely a distraction for to human interaction, but I do understand that it's supplanting that what we used to do and hang out on the phone at night, just communicating with friends. They just get to do it over video, which is a lot cooler than, we had like that house that had the second line,
well, you could,
instead of the main line.
Be on a computer at the same time as opposed to like, what are you doing? I get off. I need to use the phone.
Well, you're younger than I am. This wasn't even... Here I'm talking about, they had 2 phone lines and one was for the kids and one was for the parents. Blow your mind, right? I mean,
I feel like with my upbringing, that's just being rich. Like, we had one, so you had to use that for everything.
Yeah. Or the phone jack in the bathroom. They had a phone in the bathroom. It's crazy. How did they live? I don't know. I don't understand it. But how do you unplug?
Oh, geez.
Or do you? I guess that's the question you started with.
Yeah. How do I unplug? So Lent just happened. That was one thing. So you could never stop working, right? You know, as an agency owner, or, just anyone who cares about their job, probably, and has a remote capability, you can never stop working if you didn't actively try to. So for me, for Lent, it was putting the phone away when I got home and not checking anything until after the kids were in bed, and like figured out with the wife, like, are we hanging out, or otherwise I'll jump on the computer. But then just not being like constantly distracting, because it's like death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It can be hard to focus on any one thing. Like, can't give whatever I'm trying to respond to the focus, can't give the kids the focus of the family. And, you know, so that's one way that I try to do it. And then there was, where was that? Did you go to the chamber event? Was that a chamber event that Marsha Lindsay spoke at? Were you there?
Was that the Best of Madison recently?
Yes.
Yeah, I was not there for that event.
So that morning, AT&T went out like nationwide. Or maybe you remember that. And like, I'm driving and I'm like, I'm so dependent on the phone. I just throw a map up. I know where I'm going.
Sure. Yeah.
But like, it's like a weird mental confidence thing, and I couldn't do it. And then I was like, okay, let me call Monica. And I was like, okay, it's not working. I was like, what is happening? And like, literally, I felt like a lightning, like not lightning, but a lightening. Like it just felt lifted up, like, this is nice to be unplugged. Like the pressure of whatever this was, you know, causing in my life. So I'm thinking about trying to make that happen somehow. Be like, I'm gonna turn off the internet at home on someday, or like Tuesday night or something. Like we're cutting off the electricity. You can use candles, or I don't know.
Well,
probably something drastic.
Please report back on how that goes. You know,
with the mutiny.
Yeah. Well, yes, and I actually am curious if how many people felt lighter in that moment, and how many people felt total panic.
Right.
You know, and I think it just maybe depends even on the situation. I think it was 2 summers ago it happened too. There's like a widespread cellular outage, and it was right at the time I was supposed to meet up with my cousin. And you know, the days are long gone where it was like we made a plan ahead of time, you know, right? And it was just like, just give me a call and I'll be over here, and so I'll just let you know where I am. And it was that moment of going, we have no plan, right? You know, and that like, oh gosh, what are we going to do now, kind of thing. And you figure it out, but it's just that you become so reliant on it just to the moment, so that even if it goes out for 2 minutes or 10 minutes, you're going like, well, that just scrambled things a bit. But you know, I think so. It depends on if you're in one of those moments, or if you're like, oh, thank goodness no one can reach me right now, because I kind of wanted a little bit.
I guess it depends on your emotional state.
or lost,
dear goodness.
Lost and really need the GPS right now. You know. Yeah,
because we're not printing off MapQuest anymore.
Right. Sometimes that's how old I will say, we'll just MapQuest it. I can't believe that's still coming out of my mouth. Like, how long has it been since I've used one, but I still say it.
I try to impress upon our children just how nice the technology is, and how, you know, when they complain about this over here, be like, do you understand, you know, how great this is? Like when we traveled as kids, Dad had an almanac.
Yeah, right. A triptych.
And then you stop somewhere and get the triptych, or, you know, was it AAA or whatever? You like figure it out, and you like learn about geography, which is kind of cool. Yes,
we just went over that too. I said, you know, can you imagine, because we were, you know, driving around in Arizona, I said, can you imagine if we didn't have the GPS telling us what to do? And my daughter was saying, you know, and she's 16 now, and saying, well, how did you figure it out? Well, I said we would have gone into that gas station. They would have said, take a left and a right, then 2 lefts and a right. And she said, you would have had to remember all that? Like, yeah, and you might have gotten it wrong, you know, but and then you'd go into the next gas station.
But you would pay a lot better attention.
Sharper skills, you know. So, I mean, there's some of that I think we do take for granted. And so, I don't know, that it makes me sound a little bit like a rube, you know.
No, I love it. I love, what did you say? The thing you said at first, and I was like, oh yeah, that's like my buddy who I call him a rube.
Like a late adopter, or
no, with emoji.
Oh, no
I
emojis.
will not use emoji. Yeah.
And I just sound like grumpy.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of my buddies who's
emojis.
like, we're actually reading. I have a book group with a group of guys, and we're reading. I don't know the name of it. It's an encyclical from JP2 on the 40th, 50th anniversary of another encyclical, basically on work, the dignity of work.
Okay.
And it's it's the 40-year anniversary of that encyclical this year. So the 80s is when it came out, and they were talking about industrial revolutions and factories and the dignity of work and the dignity of the different type of work and technology, emerging technologies and computers potentially taking people's jobs and dignity, and where's the dignity in that, and like it just reads like now, but just swap out technology or computers for AI.
Sure. Yeah.
And he's the rube. So he's the one who selected this because he's like, AI is not great, and here's why. And I'm like, it's just a tool.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of a contrarian too. Well, everybody's doing it, so
yeah, that's fun though.
Yeah, well, I think that's the unplugging question is one that you kind of have to keep asking people so they keep thinking about it, right? And sticking to it.
And I think it looks different for different generations too.
Yeah.
Because like that, you get alerted, and I'm pleasantly surprised when it's like, you've only been on your phone for 3.5 hours. But then when it's like 5 and something, I'm like, what was I doing with that?
Yeah.
Whereas whoever was saying, Justin or that other kid, about the time they spend on it, it's really fascinating again, because like, I'd probably spend something like 8 hours on a internet or screen or something like that.
Yeah.
But then after that, like, I'm trying not to be in that. I'm trying to limit whatever my exposure to some things are, like, social media and just whatever, like the quick dopamine hits, and try to do stuff like this, like hang out with people and talk. Whereas my kids, because they're kids, given any freedom, would just be in it, and like, it's like, I'll say our generation, when technology like this first started coming out, like, we didn't grow up with it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't ingrained.
Yeah.
So we're a little more detached from it. Whereas like our kids are not, it's just everywhere and all the time. And even their social interactions, I think that's the challenge, is like, we had to hang out with people. You had to ride your bike somewhere.
Yep.
You had to use the phone.
Yeah.
They don't. And they get into this weird kind of surreal social world on here. So I think different generations have it differently as well. And like, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, all the younger generations, you got millennials, and then is it Z? And then I don't know where alpha beta comes in. But
good question. The thing it was today was 1996 to 2012, I think was.
Is that what they call Z? Or no?
Is it the next?
How old are we?
Yeah, I know. I don't even, we've lost track of
Z.
Yeah, I think that was.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I'm an elder millennial, like 82 to I guess 96.
Yeah, you probably is right. And I'm an Xer, which I would say no one
on the line.
Even knows. No, I'm not even on the line. I'm squarely in a generation that nobody cares about. It's so small. Yeah. And they go like, well, what are the boomers saying? And then what are the millennials saying? And it's like,
yeah, that's interesting. Why
I
is
just have
that?
a beef with that.
Just
like, oh, you guys are the grunge, like.
Well, it's like you do stuff. You're successful. Like, I don't know. The greatest generation obviously had a lot of.
We can't live up to
trauma.
That. Yeah, and we can't live up to all that they were. Which is just incredible.
I love the joke too of like, who decided on that name? Like the greatest generation. Clearly somebody in that generation.
And then we're just going to go straight to letters.
Yeah. And X and then millennial, like, or Y2K.
And Y, yeah. Y, Z, yeah. We got to start over. I mean, why start so late in the alphabet?
Yeah, I mean,
who
as
did
marketers, that? You don't ever like, what do the Gen Xers think?
Never.
It's like,
you never hear that.
Millennials. I mean, boomers are more of like a joke, not in life, but
the okay boomer kind of thing.
Yeah, more than like, I mean, maybe do you advertise for any brands that specifically are like boomers? How do we reach the boomers?
Well, I mean, let's not discount the fact that they have the greatest spending power right now and probably the highest ownership of homes,
Sure,
so
yeah.
I can't say that, they're dismissed in any way, in any, kind of marketing
I guess I
campaign
just
that
don't hear
needs
that
home
language
goods.
as much, right?
Yeah, right. And unfortunately, it's probably like the older consumer, which, so many of, you know, I love the path that's been forged of really just staying young. That there isn't this, well, you've reached this now, we're going to start getting more sedentary.
Yep.
And, it's like, because you
Better
reach
start
this
getting
age.
advertised adult diapers.
Right. Yeah. Like all that. And it's like, no, that's when you get to play pickleball a lot more, I guess. And then, pick up that craze or, whatever it is. I appreciate that because I'd rather that finish line be pushed out for me, to kind of still feel youthful. For a lot longer.
Absolutely.
So I think they've done a service to those of us.
I think we have a chance to.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll put our own mark on it.
Like the way health looks as we age, aside from all the health issues we have in this country, I don't know what it is. Like 40 is the new 30, 50 is the new 40.
Yeah.
You can still be fit and active and feel great and look great. And, that's interesting.
I thought the, like him or not, when J-Lo and Shakira did the halftime show in the Super Bowl, I was like, that was a real victory for me. That I was going like, Shakira's, I think, probably my age, and J-Lo's older, and going like, they still got it, everybody. They still got it, So every little bit helps with the psyche.
Right. Well, yeah. And the whole age marketing, like when people, I feel like we get a little caught up on, what do they say today? Millennials like authenticity. Like, yes, like we see how millennials respond to authenticity.
Yeah.
But like, I'd be like an elder millennial or like more in mentality to like a Gen X because I came out of school and got a job and worked that job for several years and didn't have the economic crisis of 2008 until well into my career. But I also value authenticity. I feel like my parents value authenticity.
Yeah.
I feel like older generations might just have more patience and just allow for more. It's like suspending disbelief versus a younger generation that the way that they communicate online is just like maybe more authentic in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think everybody to some degree, like you're saying, appreciates authenticity. And what actually was a little bit of a moment for me that made me smile was when the 17-year-old got up there and talked about the term youthquake. And it's almost like when he started talking about it as if it was a new thing. And he said, and it started in 1965. Right. So you were starting to think, oh, I see, we're going down this path and there's this youthquake happening now. And I know it's been around for a long time. Right. And just this idea just keeps getting reinvented depending on how they adopt it and what looks authentic to that generation. So I like being reminded of that. Yeah, kind of like you were saying before, like history kind of repeats itself with just a little bit of a new flavor to it. So anyway, that was just another food for thought kind of thing from today that'll stick with me a little bit.
Actually, what you said there made me think too, like that's maybe why like the fads that are advertised like get me so much, like not in a good way, like they annoy me. Because people would be like, "Oh, this is the new thing. Like, you got to stop doing this because of insulin response." And and it's like, can we take like our understanding from, our historical perspective, our historical understanding, and then any newer understanding, and do like a delta, like what has changed about our understanding, why that is, and so like a lot of health and fitness stuff has been refined, but the core principles that we kind of figured out through like the fitness and bodybuilding craze starting like the 80s, like the fundamentals are the same.
Yep.
So when we get these fads that are like, throw out the fundamentals. It's not about how much you eat. It's about the rice. You got to have brown rice and not white rice.
Right. It's a lot to keep track of if you don't remember. Yeah, that fundamental. You're right. I mean, you think about the food pyramid is now, right? It's the plate down, right?
Yeah. I mean, speak of marketing, right? Like now that's like our any given joke. When you see something silly advertised, you're like, oh, that's the big P lobby or whatever, like the big glass lobby, or they're getting it in the marketing, so we're buying more glasses.
Well, if I get back to what I believe the true spirit of advertising is that it's education.
This is the money, everyone.
Well, I mean, it's the education, right? And so in saying, put these concepts into something that people can really understand and remember. So the food pyramid, it was probably took all these complex, dietary thoughts at the time and just put it into a graphical element, right? And just said it builds and it stacks and you get less of this and more, you think about that and you go, you can vilify it, to be like, well, look what they sold. It's like, well, no, we were just communicating, right? I'm saying I wasn't around at the development of the pyramid, but maybe defending marketers in a way that was like, that's our job, is to kind of distill it,
right? Which
isn't always easy,
right?
Say sometimes writing one sentence is harder than writing a page, right? And so I had to give it a little respect.
I mean, to that point, has there ever been anything where you're like, I don't feel great about promoting or marketing this? Like, we need to think about how we handle this.
I think for the most part, we get to work with more of, home products and, so it's not like you're off selling things that you don't want to sell. It's just the biggest enlightening thing is really understanding what connects with the consumer. It's like you can say this product has a lot of benefits, but it only matters to what benefit connects most or resonates most, right? And so I always love the Dale Carnegie quote of like, consumers people don't care about you, they care about themselves, right? So it's always about how this affects me. So I just, that sounds so obvious, but really kind of,
the best thing
peeling back the layers, right? Yeah, you have to peel back the layers and get to the heart of it, and then be able to communicate that in a way. So that's step one, is peeling back all the layers and getting to that key insight, and then being able to make it sing creatively, whether that's graphically or through video storytelling or, written words, whatever it might be. So I love that element of it. And I'd always think about like, well, what's my favorite project? And it's like, if someone were to throw 100 pages on my desk and say, distill this into a paragraph, I'd be like, yes.
Really?
It's some weird, I'm like, I love that challenge. It's so.
You should use AI.
You say I've been choked on my words. And it's probably right. There you go. I'm being displaced. It's time for me to retire.
So, there's like the enjoyment. It could be like bespoke labor. Like you could have the AI do this, or I will do it as a bespoke copy editor.
Correct.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
It's gotta be a prompt engineer.
How do I distill this into one paragraph? Go to it. Yeah. I don't know.
I love that too, because when you hit on it, like it just feels right. And people respond to it. It's like magic.
Yeah. It's not easy to do.
No.
I think people get lulled into, well, I watch advertising and I know what I like to see.
Oh yeah. It's obvious. It's like, well, that message is obvious. Like the food pyramid is obvious, like that it's like that. Like it is obvious now.
Yeah.
But like coming up with it.
That might have been a 100-page paper that came into a pyramid, that everybody could adopt and put on the wall of every elementary school or, I mean, and I think too, the humor aspect of it, of advertising and how difficult that is to pull off. I don't know if or what, when you're talking about, it's about emotion and connecting with emotion, because even branding, the decision-making process is about emotion. If we were just purely rational, we make most of the decisions we make, it's
Yeah,
like,
we would buy a lot less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, or the cheapest thing,
Right.
or whatever it is, and that just
Right.
well, it's part of what makes us human,
Yeah.
right? Is that the emotion that comes into it, and
Right.
and being able to connect with that is not easy. But that's what makes it fun. So I don't know, which emotion, you feel yourself kind of running into most as you're creating videos.
Oh yeah.
You know
What's funny?
Yeah.
It's like huge juxtaposition, or maybe a huge dichotomy, huge division. Like when we can do like human trafficking awareness work and like those stories, which like it's just
One of
like
my
a
biggest.
throat punch.
Yeah, like
but I mean, we kind of think about it too, like, a surgeon, and you get to a point where you can do the work, but we have to remind ourselves, to be human as well. Because otherwise, like, I was doing it for 2 years, and then Max started editing for the first time because our other editor moved to another position, and he stepped up into that position and started editing some of these human trafficking stuff. And like, he had a really hard first week, like hearing these stories and putting stuff together.
Yeah.
And it was good to talk about that, because I was at a point where I'm like, these are always stories of hope. So the despair and fear and anger and hurt and all that, like, I don't hold on to, because I know at the end of it, there's hope, and there's somebody who's doing good work, and they're helping other people and things like that. But to really kind of pull back into that emotional experience, I think helped us with some of those stories and draw that out. So like, you can't not watch some of that stuff and not be emotional. So that crazy stuff, and then comedy,
right?
Irreverent stuff,
right?
And that's I feel like that's really hard. And sometimes we don't quite hit the mark. We get close to the bullseye, but we don't hit the bullseye. And we're always trying to refine that process. And I even see that. Do you know Gary Vaynerchuk?
No, I don't.
Like VaynerMedia. He's a really intense marketer.
Okay.
Be careful. Maybe use like a colleague's computer and look him up. It's not inappropriate, but as soon as you like look him up, you're going to get all his ads and all his things. And he's a very effective marketer. He's kind of like a thought leader, and he's just very abrasive, kind of in his approach. Like, he'll talk to someone and be like, "What are you doing? How many posts? That's not enough. Do you care about your business? Like, if you cared about it, you would be doing this." Anyway, they do a lot of good work, and they had this one for Scott Scott toilet paper, Scott paper products.
Sure.
They did one maybe a year ago. That was The Clogging, they called it, which was a great kind of indie horror film, like a 5 minutes. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
No, but I'm transported there already.
Yeah,
listening.
It's really great. It's the in-laws are coming over, and what is like, she goes in there and they only have the 5-ply, and then afterwards, like, it sticks up the toilet, and then she's like freaking out because they're trying to get in there, but she's clogged the toilet, and now it's overflowing, and it's like this dramatic indie horror film, but kind of dark comedy, and they nailed it on that. So good. They did a follow-up a year or two later. What is that one called? I don't remember what it's called. I was like angry by it. But the comedy just wasn't there. Comedy and production value were just not there. The timing was a little awkward, and beats didn't hit. And it's just more difficult components to, in my opinion, to comedy. Like, it's really easy to get it wrong.
Yeah. Well,
really hard to get it right.
I just I was reading an article about Steve Martin's most recent documentary. I think it's on Netflix, if I have that right. And I watched part 1 just this past week, and I've been a big fan for a long time. But it's like talking about, like, he's a gold standard, for a comedian, and being a stand-up, and you think about how practiced and tested and all of, it seems spontaneous, but talking about the highs and lows of his movie career, going like some of them just were fantastic comedies, and others, he were just complete, box office failures. And you think about even somebody who gets comedy right, still gets comedy wrong, Yeah. So again, we all just have to have a little humility.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Kevin James, like King of Queens?
Oh, yes.
Comedian?
Yeah.
He was talking on a podcast that I listened to. Actually, in the context of fasting, he did like a 41-day fast for his daughter who was having medical issues, which was amazing. Nice. And he's a fat guy who likes to eat, like admittedly so. These cameras are cool. But the problem is you activate like move mode and like crap like this happens.
Are you out of the...
I gotta turn that off. Let's see. Do I do this? There we go. All right. I think yours might be. That's fine.
I'm moving on. I'm trying to move off camera.
Yeah, there you go.
Is this awkward?
Hey, it's following you.
Oh,
it's great.
Okay.
No, this is authentic. The Gen Z is loving it. The alpha and beta. Like
this is it. I didn't even put on lipstick.
They're Snapchatting it. Kevin James, that was cool. He did a 41-day fast. But he was talking about being at a corporate gig and like being so nervous, and like he's like, I still bomb. And he's nervous about this little corporate gig. He's like, there's no stage. There's like a little podium. No one's looking at me. Like, I don't even know that people think I'm here. And he's like, I'm going to go on in 5 minutes. And he tells us this, and he's like, just give him the money back. I'm out. Just like, I don't care. I'll fly, because they flew him out and everything. He's like, I'll pay for the flight. Like, I'm done. I can't do this. Like, and even him, who, probably is set, doesn't need to work for his money if he doesn't want.
Yeah.
But, there's dignity in work, and he enjoys his craft, but is still terrified occasionally of getting up and bombing. And I think there's something magical there. Absolutely.
Well, I think we all need to kind of keep that in mind too. It's like, good reminder.
Yeah.
All of it, but so.
Yeah. Do you feel that? Are you like, not that you don't want to drive and have goals and, get somewhere, move. Do you feel like you've made it?
Oh, gosh. No. I mean, here's the thing. I've got, a dad at 73 who still probably thinks his best years are to come in the office, so.
That's awesome.
I think it gets back to this whole self-awareness of what success looks like, from the achievement to just the happiness, right? And the space between sometimes, and those, I mean, certainly no, I think there's still a lot out there, but I think I'm more relaxed about, I don't, that, winning the silver medal was really, touching and humbling, and those things of going like, that's something that I would have aspired to.
Yeah.
And so like, it's really gratifying to have received it. And I also look at it and think, I don't have another, there's not another one I'm kind of hoping I'll, so at this point it's just,
like, when do I get the gold one now? Now that I'm the youngest silver medal
if I had I don't know if more, they just have to put some sort of disclaimer on there and why it's called that, just it's silver hair is really what it's when you're old, and kind of joking about, well, if you get a kind of a lifetime achievement award, I guess that means you can retire.
I know.
But I don't know. I mean, I think it happens in small ways every day. Of, did I do a good job with the kids today? Did I do a good job with the team members today? I think some of that success will look like having a little more calm in, and not feeling, about getting, I just think that comes with age too. And I'm like, I've been there, act like you've been there kind of thing. And truly having been there, that you can put things in better perspective. It's hard to tell people to have it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go through it.
You said cultivating calm there.
Yeah.
I really like that. How do you do that?
Well, I don't know. That's what you said. That's my next goal.
Okay.
I've gotten far enough to know I need to get there.
Yeah.
That's step one. Well, some people do think I am calm. I do have fairly low blood pressure too. So it's really just me passing out. That's why I'm having a Diet Coke right now. But no, I do think that there's a certain aspect to that I think is aspirational.
Yeah, right.
You know, just I don't know how else to describe it. It's something that I think benefits everybody, including myself. But just to be able to sit down and really explain something. But when things are, and maybe it's just time of life too. And it's like I saw I was in the kids' school the other day, and on the office desk it said, "Do I look like Google?" His the 50 questions that you get, just like. And when you're, the kids are doing, asking questions that some of the time you don't have the answer to, but you're kind of jogging your memory and doing that, and you're making dinner, and maybe the, work call might be coming, whatever. And having that presence, and you're talking about, the presence of not having technology disrupting it, but just the presence of sorting through and being, I'm going to answer this and then I'll get to this, instead of being like,
Right. Yeah. Because that's
the Calgon commercial. If for all the old people watching, Calgon, take me away. Just too many things going on. But
we should bring that back. It resonates throughout time.
Well, I mean, right. That's exactly right. It's like just looks like it's something a little bit different than it did when it first came out. But
well, and this just distracts even more, like on a
yes,
more anxiety-inducing level.
Yeah. Well, and if you have access to getting the answer to something, you will go find it. Whereas before, it was like, don't know. Do you get to say I don't know anymore?
Yeah, that's powerful.
But so I don't know what aspirations. I mean, putting it back at you.
Man, I feel like any time that I'm like, oh, this is nice. Like, stop it. What did I do? Yeah, I did it again.
It's like you're waving your hands.
I can turn this off too. I'm just AI, turn off. At various stages, like, so we started the business 17 years ago, but it was nights and weekends. It was on the side. And John and I both had full-time jobs, and we had families at the time, babies and spouses, wives, and we're kind of all fitting it in, and then we're like, oh my gosh, once we just have one job and can work on it, you kind of always tell yourself, like, what, tomorrow or when we
then it'll be fine.
And then that happened, and then it's like, okay, well, this is great, and there's less stresses, but there's different stresses now, and now I'm doing all these things, and maybe I'm not the best at some of these, so I really need to hire some people. Once I hire some people, then it'll be good. And then it's like, okay, now we have the people, and the business is coming in at a good rate, and things are great, and like now it's good. And then we have another baby, or something happens, or you lose a big client or something, and so I'm trying to figure out the mindset of keeping my foot on the pedal, but in a way that doesn't, cause issues at the business, or at home. Like, if you push too hard at work, you're likely ignoring at home. And my good friend Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Yeah, obviously.
He said,
"See here."
He's actually very quietly sitting in the next room, waiting for the next appointment.
Oh, cool! He's right after me. Cool.
Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah.
He just said balance doesn't look like, home and work being equal. It's like sometimes work's like this and home's like this, and then sometimes home's like this and work. And I was like, oh, thank you for sharing that very obvious and simple, philosophy that everyone needs to hear. But thinking about how to keep the foot on the pedal, but still show up at the kids' games. Still be able to be present with my wife. Still have any hobby. And it's tough too, because some of my hobbies are this stuff, but and I think once I do that, then I'll come up with another, answer, right? Because it's always like the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
It is, and in some ways, it was like something you said just made me think. It's like, how can aspiration be letting go of some things, right? And that's some of the discernment of it,
That sounds
and that
hard.
wisdom, right? Well, it's true. I mean, But we all have that. It's like there's some days where, you know, I make a list and I go, oh my God, I can't believe how much I got done today. And then I'll make a list for the next. I'm like, it's just as long. Like I didn't get anywhere. You know?
Or like, how is there more things now?
Yeah. So, and I still have that closet downstairs I haven't gone through, you know, which is, you know, it's never, I'll get to it this weekend, right? I'm going to take a day off and do that.
Yeah.
I read another article. I was like 3 a.m. last night. I usually sleep like a rock, so it's not always. But if I can't sleep, I like grab a bowl of cereal and read the newspaper. There's analog for you.
Hey.
I still get 2 printed newspapers every morning.
2 different ones.
Yeah, so I get the Wall Street Journal and the Wisconsin State Journal. You get a flavor of a local, and then national. There's some overlap, but it was somebody literally talking about taking a sabbatical and going like, so here are the things I'm going to do, right? I am going to clean out that closet, and then I'm going to, you know, and it was such a to-do list that she was feeling just as exhausted.
Yeah, right.
And it was really, and then she kind of recognized that and just said, I just kind of took a couple, there's like the kids went to school, I took 2 naps and I binged some Netflix stuff. And then that's really when I, you know, but I think everybody enters, if you're kind of a hard charger or whatever by nature, to know what that even looks like.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, good. I've got that downtime. I've always wanted to do that other thing.
Yes. That's 100% what it is. Like, I have downtime. Now let me build this other thing that's half built.
Yes. I'm going to take up tennis now that I have, you know, an afternoon free, you know. It's just kind of like you always, I think there's some really beautiful thing about wanting to discover and try new things too, that kind of that energy, it kind of just keeps you buzzing, but also letting go of some of the things that don't bring that positive energy, I guess. So maybe sometime I'll figure that out.
Well, in creative too, like that's always the hardest thing. Like you got to come up with a creative brief or a treatment or a script or an article or you know, marketing phrase or whatever. And like putting that into the schedule, it's like, I don't know.
How long is that going to take?
Yeah, how long is it going to take?
Yeah, right. Like, not all things are equal. It's like, you know, change out the paper towel roll and then come up with an entirely new tagline.
And it's like, I have 2 hours here and I have a couple hours the next day. And then the meeting's in the third day. So I have to get it done, you know, before then. Yeah. So try to put some of that time in. But I find, and I'm curious, your perspective, that like I need to not have the pressure of other things around it often, and then just be doing something else, like the idea of boredom. Yes. Like I need to get my mind into a boredom, a place of boredom, and then like there's a relaxation in my mind, and then other ideas can come, as opposed to like, I got to respond to that thing, and then I got to do this, and then this is also something that's really important to get done for another client. You know, like I got to try to figure out how to put myself in a state of boredom and less pressure.
It'd be like, I have 15 minutes to be creative.
Right.
Go. Yeah. Well, I think that's why they say the best ideas come in the shower, right? You know, you're just literally like soap, you know, shampoo, you know. Yeah. It's probably the only time in the day that you're really not trying to really hard charge through. Well, maybe you are. I don't know. Depends how quickly you got to get to it. But yeah, I mean, I do think it's really important for everybody to have a little bit of boredom. Our kids too. You know, when they say I'm bored, it's like good. Yeah, I'm 100% with you. Yeah, it's a good thing. Yeah, you know? I want that for you. Be inventive. Yeah, be creative. Be a little jerk, like, you know, not to me or your mom, but go get in a little bit of trouble. Right, and then work it out and get a life skill. Yeah. I mean, no, I think it's really important for that creative process that it's not a checklist or a certain amount of time. I think it is the space between. Yeah. So how do you try to achieve that? Like, you have some creative goals, like some creative to-dos. You know, it sometimes, in a way, I work best under pressure, which is contrarian to what I just said, but it's true. Oh yeah. Like sometimes, you know, you're just and sometimes I think it's like lifting a car off a child. Yeah.
Like, you can never lift a car, but when you have to,
yeah,
like, better believe it's gonna happen.
or when you're really up to it.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes, right, in the creative process, it's just coming, right?
Yeah.
It's just, and you don't know how or why, but everything you're writing is working out. And there's other times where it's not. And I don't try to force the times that it's not, or I tap in somebody else to say, I'm a little stuck here.
Yeah.
Can you take it from here for a little bit? Help me get out of this rut. And then they end up making it, better. And you kind of on a new path together. So I kind of appreciate a little bit more of a teamwork approach on that. Because I just think marketing is just a spectrum of skill sets that are all intersecting. And to really try to be all of it is almost impossible.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. So that's why I guess we build our company all about team and teamwork. And, my brother and I, coming from sports backgrounds, understand and appreciate that implicitly, that you need a point guard and you need a forward and you need, and not everybody being point guards. And, so it's, and working together is just a lot more, just the work product's a lot better. And how do you make that happen though? Because you don't always produce great teams on the court either, and so it's learning how to work off each other's, and being resourceful, right? Not trying to take it on all yourself. So
just be like, ChatGPT.
Well, as you can see, it's not going to be my immediate answer. I'm contacting another human.
I mean, honestly, like, I think we've got a great creative team here, and I like ChatGPT tool as like give me some other angles that we don't have here. Like diversity of thought, and opinion, and perspective is so important.
Yeah.
And just as we've built the company, there's a lot of white guys here, and then we have some white girls. Not a lot of diversity, and a lot of very similar backgrounds as well. So trying to find different perspectives, different work that I think resonates within a market, like that's it's like the internet or AI or just just tools to use for that. But then, as you were saying that too, like coming up to a deadline, and it could be an artificial deadline, like, hey, we're going to have the client meeting next week, but we have an internal review tomorrow, like the only time I have now, and to really push and force through that, I think is an interesting exercise too. And I don't know if you experience this, but I certainly sometimes just have to get the garbage out, pitch a bunch of really bad ideas, and even to the other creatives, and then be like, it's not great. It's not, we're not there yet. No
idea is a bad idea in a brainstorm.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. That's,
let it flow. Just let it flow.
Well, that's like client education too. When you're like in brainstorming meetings, be like, hey, this is a meeting where we want everyone's ideas to come out. Even if you think it's the stupidest idea you've ever had, like share it, because it could help us understand something in a different way. And we're not going to have any kind of judgment or criticism or anything, because that's not what we're doing here. We're just getting it all out, including the garbage.
That's hard. Like people have a hard time not going
specific personality types.
Absolutely not that, and it's like, just let it sit for,
Or like, do you understand how much that's going to cost? There's no way we can do that. It's like, well, we're not there yet. Hold that for tomorrow.
We're not crushing dreams yet. That comes later. Usually like that comes to the account department, or something.
All right. I hear that now. Remove a zero. How do we do the same thing?
Right.
In a different budget.
Yeah.
That's always been interesting, kind of growing through the video production and then spreading out a little bit more into marketing. Just people's perspective of marketing and how it's changed. We were not around, and I think you were probably around when agencies doing commercials, it was just a whole different ballgame. We've heard stories of.
I wasn't around for Mad Men, just to be clear. I had an employee ask me, "What were you doing when JFK was shot?" And I was like, "You do know I was alive then, right?" Oh my. So anyway, I'm just letting you know, Mad Men was not my era, but yes.
I've met marketers from that area, and I'm like, and they're like, there's some great stuff. There's and one in particular, I was like, that I do not. Let's not talk about stuff like that. but taking a mortgage out on the house to get the equipment to do a project locally, because like otherwise you're hiring LA or maybe
Sure.
Chicago, but like now we can produce a commercial for a very small kind of like a micro budget.
Yeah.
But the perspective of phones changing in like 2008, like I have a camera in my pocket, like I can do this, and to some extent,
right,
like anyone who wants to be an influencer has to be their own kind of brand expert and marketing expert, and so
graphics and video,
I'm sure you've gotten good at pre-qualifying, but I kind of get a kick out of pre-qualifying. Like a lead comes in through like the website or through some digital channel
for a project like to do, like an RFP.
Yeah, and I like always come at it with so much enthusiasm, and like I look at the brand and I'm like, okay, this could be great. Whatever the pre-qualifying message or numbers are, and like I'd be, I'm super happy. Like, when are you available to talk? And like, oh, so and even something small. Sorry, my wife's like on fire. That's what I'm assuming is happening.
Okay, well,
that's
when things. No, this is going on too long. So text me when it's 4:00, so I can say it's time to wrap.
Yeah, so I can have an easy out. Yeah,
I'm onto it.
That's awesome. The only thing I hate about this process is like now it's 4:00, and I'm like, all right, now I'm gonna start
wrap it up.
I'm gonna start grilling you on the hard stuff.
Oh boy!
But we wrap up.
Oh yeah. Well, next time.
Anyway, pre-qualifying is fun, and you come at them and you're like, yeah, this $10,000 for something small, and they're like, oh, we have $500. And I like almost want to build like, and this is maybe more in the nonprofit and Catholic world. Like I want to build a nonprofit that can get donations and then distribute those to groups who like just have no idea about marketing and need help and need funding.
Yeah.
Because we get that a lot.
Yeah.
Especially from nonprofits.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think, what's interesting about that is that it gets back to that authenticity word you said before, that actually the lower cost video, like somehow is more authentic, but I think it's discounting the storytelling value and 100%. The journalistic, as you're about to grill, said subject for a podcast, but like, it isn't as easy. That's why I want to demystify, like it's too demystified, right? And saying, well, we know how to do this. I've got a camera in my pocket, to your point, and saying, so we can do it. And it's like, well, have a little appreciation for, we can all do a painting too.
Right.
Right. You know what I mean? We can, so I really want to put that out there for the respect for what you guys do, and taking even, a story like mine and making it much interesting. My life actually was. You guys did such a good job, but just all and the creative elements that go through. I hope people appreciate that a little bit more than saying it.
Well, and like, the non-video side of like coming up to with a slogan or branding or, infographics or things like that. Again, everyone has Canva and can write something, but like, does it distill that 100-page of just information and content and feeling down to the quintessential element? That's the magic.
Yeah, and a slogan that, I don't always say, the slogans make all the difference, but the ones that are really good are really good, right? You're just like, I'm gonna sit in that for a second. It's so good. I think that's maybe, I'd hope to see more of that as a lot of these skill set, where we used to have to mock something up literally by hand or draw something by hand and, put it all together. And, you can do it on Canva, to your point, and it's all at people's fingertips. And I don't want to discount the craft.
The artistry. Right. Because we're always going to have more developed tools, and it's going to be a little bit easier. And like AI, we can do some animatics with AI now. That's one way we've done it. But still, you get a budget. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm hiring this storyboard artist and these animators, and
they're still relevant. They still, we should still appreciate what they do.
Well, even if the technology goes such that, to operate Photoshop or Illustrator, you're doing more prompts in AI, or you're doing a little bit of framing and then you prompt AI. You still have to be an artist and have that eye and that feel and guide the tool or utilize the tool. Like, I don't think that's ever going to go away. And when it does, then, we're kind of irrelevant.
Well, but that is the human element of, understanding how, and putting the composition together. Right. And that's something new.
For as long as people have been trying to convince somebody of whatever. All right. So we are wrapping up.
Okay.
We do this thing, 2 truths and a lie. So I didn't prep.
Oh boy.
You, so it's great.
Oh boy.
While I can give you a piece of paper too, if you want to write something down, or you can think about it. And just to make it more confusing, I want to share 2 crazy things that happened in my family because you have kids and this is hilarious. The first is one time I was going home. My wife was leaving and going to her studio. She was a gown maker and altered wedding dresses and stuff. Okay. And the kids were kind of little, and I think maybe the oldest was like 10, and it was like, okay, it's a half an hour. They'll be fine. I'll get home. Halfway home, and she gives me a call and is like clearly upset. She's like, everybody's okay, which is the right way to, have a phone call like that. When something has happened, you start with everybody's
It's like when
okay.
school calls. Everything's fine.
Yeah. He's fine. His arm is bending the wrong way. However, he can't feel it. He's on Oxycontin. That went dark fast. She calls and she's like, everybody's fine. Everything's fine. So she's like, I was leaving, and the car was turned around in the driveway. I'm like, oh my gosh, she ran over a kid. And she's like, it was turned around, it was facing forward, and she's like, I pulled out, and then I was trying to get on the highway, and I couldn't because the highway was blocked for and it might have even been like a presidential thing because we used to live by the airport.
Oh, sure.
So then she has to go down through some side streets and gets on East Wash. So it's going towards the studio. And she's like, and then people are like honking at me, and there's someone behind me honking, and somebody beside me like pointing back. And she's like, what's going on? And she looks in her mirror, and above, in the window, at the bottom of the window in the back, she sees like little blonde curls. And so she pulls over and jumps out there, and our 3-year-old at the time is holding on to a windshield wiper and standing on the bumper on the back of the car. And there was 2 cars, one car who was trailing her and another car up beside her trying to get her to notice and stop.
Oh my gosh.
That's a trauma we have.
That's
Maggie.
Real trauma.
Maggie was her name. She's like, can I go inside now? A little spitfire. And luckily she didn't go on the highway because the highway was blocked off.
Oh, so that's divine intervention. I think is what they call that.
Yeah. So that was freaky. That was true. And then it's like a month ago, my watch starts going off. This is at 12:30 at night, and my phone, and then Monica's like, hey, I think somebody's up downstairs. And we have an alarm system, and it's just motion sensors in the main level, and it just sends messages when there's motion, just in case the kids get up or whatever. Go deal with that because they're young. So I was getting that, and then I was like, oh, the alarm went off and the alarm called. And she's like, yeah, I hear people down there. And I was like, I'll go check it out. Not really, just kind of waking up from sleeping and not really thinking much. And I'm like, luckily I'd worn pajamas that night too, because I was like, I get kind of cold. I'll keep the pajamas on. Go down the stairs, and I'm like, well, if somebody's in the house, I'll just open the door and then I'll set off the alarm and it'll take care of things. The alarm had already gone off, so I clearly wasn't thinking things through. I go down there and I see the doors open a little bit, the front door, and then I see like lights out front, and I'm like, what's going on? I kind of look over and I see a police officer. I'm like, oh, that's good. That's the police. So I open the door and I'm like, hello. And they're like, are you okay? Like, we got, the alert from the alarm system, and we came and knocked and called your phone, and, we checked around back and didn't see any tracks and anything or whatever. And I was like, oh, I think we're fine. And then I hear clear. And then behind me, there's 2 cops coming out of the basement. And they had cleared the bottom 2 levels of my house and were coming towards towards the front. And I'm like, luckily, I had my clothes on. I didn't have a weapon or anything. Like, I've always thought like I'd grab like a lamp or something.
Yeah.
And go downstairs. And, like, I didn't get tased. But what we figured out happened is the door didn't get shut all the way and didn't get locked. So then it blew open. Set off our alarm. Alarm company calls cops. Cops came. Doors open. They check out the whole area, and then the doors open. They want to make sure everybody's okay, so they can come in.
Yeah.
Luckily, everything was okay, and I didn't get tased.
That would have just made the story a little better.
But that was hilarious. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Have you ever been tased? That'll be the.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. I won't ask you that. It was a hypothetical.
Not yet, but I hope to. I hope to have an interesting life. All right. Do you have your 3 stories? Or did I distract you?
Oh, they're truly like stories. I thought I was
just
supposed to
3
throw
things
out.
About yourself. Yeah.
Oh, it's 3 things about. I thought it was like one of those games where it's like I had to trick you into knowing which one was
2 truths and a lie.
Yeah.
And myself and whoever's online can guess. We got to guess the lie.
Let's see. I have lived in San Francisco, Chicago, New York, DC. I have done a Britney Spears routine on a bar more than once. And have been recognized by others outside of said situation as the person who did Britney Spears routines on the bar. I was arrested on spring break.
See, I've been watching your eyes, and you're pretty good at lying. See, the first one, you went up over there. Mm-hmm. I thought it was up to the left that we lie, or down to the left. So the second one, you went down to the left. And then the third one, interesting. You just drilled into my face. You were arrested on spring break was number 3. Number 2, you did a Britney Spears routine on a bar more than once and have been recognized by people outside the situation. And number 1, you've lived in San Francisco, Chicago, New York, and DC. I feel like I should know some of this. Like, I know you lived in California and I believe DC. I don't know about New York. I'm trying to think. It's probably in your video. And then the Britney Spears routine on a bar. So there's like 4 details on here. Mm-hmm. And any one of them could be the lie. That's a good way to do That's a good way to do it. Mm. And then you're arrested on spring break. I like to think all of these are mostly true. And number 2 is partially a lie. That's my guess.
Number 2 is true.
Oh, really?
We had a former 49ers cheerleader at my place of work. And so they taught us a Britney Spears routine. And I couldn't let it just go for the one event, so anytime it would come on in the bar, seemed wise to do it on an elevated surface. And there was one time I was at a church event with a friend and I was like reaching for the banana bread and 2 girls were like talking and they go, "Are you the girl who does Britney Spears?" And I was literally like, "Oh, that's awesome. Okay, here I am, out of context and recognized." So at church or a church function, no less. Yeah, that's awesome. It's like, yep. I then when you asked me, have I arrived? Probably then. It was all downhill. You got recognized for your most famous act. Yeah. Yeah, it was my biggest accomplishment. Yeah. That's amazing. I thought for a second they were going to take a turn for the worse. You're like, I was at a Easter vigil party and they had a bar and I can get a little wild with us Catholics. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so number 2 is true. Mm-hmm. All true. All true. Not even. Yeah, I thought maybe you didn't get recognized or something like that. Like partially not true. Yeah. What about number 1? I've lived in all those cities. Oh man. Okay. When did you live in New York? I did a professional residency in grad school. I worked for a publishing company. Thought that's what I wanted to do. Yeah. Publishing. So yeah. Yep. Union Square.
And then DC, was DC
Right
after that, and then California?
DC was right after college graduation.
Oh, okay.
And then I went to grad school, and then San Francisco. Yeah. So, and Chicago is where I did my graduate studies. So, yeah.
So number 3, you're arrested on spring break.
Yeah.
They never caught you. Is I think.
Did I say
the
convicted?
reality.
That was from the movie Stripes. They're like, have you ever been convicted of a crime? They're like, convicted? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I guess I do laugh about the fact that my parents let us go on spring break. The 4 of us, only one of us was 18. The other 3, 17. No parents. Talking about something that would not happen today.
Is this siblings or your friend group?
Friend group.
Okay.
So we had a lot of parents that were complicit in this. and we got off the plane and we get to the hotel, and the person said, I cannot rent a hotel room to you guys. It's like, well, we're already here. I mean, we just flew here.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
in Florida. It was in Daytona Beach.
And you had an 18-year-old, right?
1. So they were like, okay, I guess technically.
Yeah.
So, but we had no business being there, and weren't doing anything at all, which is why it's funny. It's because it's like, all that, raucous was going down. It's downstairs and on the beach and everything. We were like, well, let's have some key lime pie in the hotel restaurant. So we were not troublemakers.
The MTV spring break vibe.
That was happening over there.
Yeah.
We were just watching it from our balcony. So anyway, there you go. Well, good. I fooled you.
And they didn't catch you. So
It didn't catch me eating too much key lime pie.
moral of the story, I hope your kids see this at some point.
You
could be 17 and not get caught.
And you're not going on spring break without me. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's cameras, so we'll know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it. That's all we got.
Okay.
Do you want to plug
Thank you.
anything? Is it KennedyC.com?
KennedyC.com is the company
Check out all the good work you're doing.
I run. But yeah, absolutely. You got an amazing team, and you can see the fun they're having on that website and every day. So yeah. Thank you. It was a pleasure. I really appreciate all that you guys have done for me, and just fun running into you today too, and being able to do this.
Well, and I love that you got a silver medal award, because again, it seems like a capstone, but you're obviously so young and like, I'm still going to keep kicking for 20 years, hopefully.
I think so,
like maybe give me another one in 20 years. Like, but that, we always love getting to work on that stuff and getting to meet interesting people and then hang out. So thank you.
Thank you.
That's what we got. I don't know who we have next, but
The Rock.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Actually, that's right.
Stay tuned.
Way to keep that joke going. See you next time.